What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Right here in front of me, we have a Torch Offroad Add. We're going to be installing an Add today on the 2nd gen Tacoma as we're in the middle of a build series here on it. And we wanted to try out some new parts, some new manufacturers to get the word out. And so we found these on Amazon, actually. They were recommended to us by a close friend of the channel, Kevin from CK Auto Fad down in Winnipeg. Make sure to follow their Instagram. They do some sick builds, really helpful guys as well. So today we're going to do some unboxing here, and then we're going to throw these on the Tacoma to give it about an inch and a half of lift to level out the rear. And so let's get started. All right, so right here we got the box disassembled. Very simple. It's going to come with it. You're going to get some new hardware for your U-bolts. These are going to be extended U-bolts because we are adding a leaf. This is the Add a Leaf. This is just going to go within your leaf pack. It's going to be the equivalent of pretty much putting a lift spring in. And so it's just going to raise up the rear end. And then of course over here we have longer through bolts because the stock through bolts might not be long enough to actually have the added leaf pack in there. And so pretty simple. Extended U-bolts, extended through bolts, Add a Leafs, and hardware. All right, so before we get started, guys, let's visualize what we're gonna be doing because it makes it a whole lot easier. And so right here we have our leaf pack. And so on our Tacoma, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves. Now you see there's 3 up top, 1 on the bottom. This Add a Leaf that we have here from Torch is actually gonna go in between the 3 and the 1. Just like that. And so what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna clamp these 3 together there, clamp these 3 together there. We're gonna unbolt our shock. We're gonna unbolt this brake line, and then we're gonna unbolt our U-bolts, which are gonna be replaced by the longer U-bolts, which is gonna end up dropping this down. We're then gonna be able to add our Add a Leaf in between the 3 and 1, bolt everything back together, and we should be good to go. With that being said, as you might have just heard, that we are gonna be unbolting our rear shock absorber. If you're doing a lift, it might be a really good time to look at something that might be like a Bilstein 1500, 1500, 5100. Who messes that up? Nobody. So a Bilstein 5100 could be a good option for you guys if you're considering actually replacing your rear shocks, because we're already unbolting one of the 2 connections, and so we're gonna be doing that as well.
All right, getting started right away here. We're gonna take our jack up that rear axle, and we are gonna set the truck on some jack stands on the frame. Then we're gonna remove this parking brake wire. We're just gonna do that so we can get some movement in the leaves. We're gonna remove the rear shock. This is just gonna be the bottom mount here. It's 17 millimeters on both sides. Should come out fairly easy. You might need to hit it with a punch, but sure enough, it will. Then we're gonna move on to our U-bolts here. So our U-bolts, we're just gonna take them off. They're 19 millimeters. We're just gonna gently do them one at a time in a crisscross pattern. It'll just make it easier to remove and make sure we're not stripping any threads or any weird weight dispersion. And so once you've gone ahead and done that, you can zip them off if you have a air ratchet or if you have an impact driver. Otherwise, enjoy taking your time doing this. Once you loosen off those nuts, we're gonna have that bracket free. And look at these U-bolts, they're gonna pop off just like that. And you're gonna say, what is this rubber thing? Well, that's your rear bump stop. That prevents your axle from hitting the frame. It's really good for protecting your suspension. You can upgrade them if you want, we're going to. C-clamp those 3 leaves together and it's gonna look like that. Then you can take off that little alignment pin. This is the bolt, the through bolt that holds everything together. It just aligns it. Shouldn't be too tight. We're just gonna go ahead and loosen that. Once we loosen that off, we're gonna drop the axle. Make sure you don't stretch any wires or cables here. We're just gonna do it nice and gently. From another angle, you're gonna see it. Boom, make sure you catch that though. Like I said, you don't wanna stretch anything. So we're gonna go out and take that lower leaf off, and you're gonna see that little pin in there. We're gonna take that out because we're gonna be replacing it. So just hit it with a hammer if you need, coax it with some sweet nothings, whatever you need to do, get it out of there. And we are gonna just clean that up and prepare to install the new Add a Leaf. Now right here we have 2 of the included pins. We're gonna be using the thicker one because it fits our leaf pack the best and it just makes sense. And so we're gonna take the old bottom leaf, we're gonna sandwich the new Add a Leaf in there, making sure we have it in the right orientation. We're gonna just slide this new through bolt in. Once you do that, you can gently slide it through, being careful not to damage the threads. We're gonna lie it on top of the axle, and if you remember, there's that little hole in the top of the axle in the mounting bracket. We're just gonna make sure that pin, that bolt bottom aligns in there because that's gonna be crucial for making sure we have the right orientation. Once we get to that point, it is fairly straightforward. We're just gonna jack it up really carefully. If you listen, this is the sound of not being too careful. That is the threads rubbing on the other leaf pack. We do not want that. Try to be as careful as you can here, guys. Not the end of the world, though. Once you get to this point, you're going to notice, wow, I have a cool contraption, and I got this nut. We're going to put the nut on top of that through bolt, on that alignment bolt, and we are just going to hand tighten it down. Important to note, this is not used to compress the whole leaf pack. Do not put an impact driver on this and just go to town. That bolt is not made for that. So what we're going to do, we're just going to align it, making sure everything is in an alignment, and we are going to raise the axle a tiny bit, and then just take these nifty C-clamps, and we're slowly going to clamp it together. As you can see, we're going to clamp it, and then we're just going to hand tighten that nut. This might take a bit. Clamp, twist, 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 tighten the nut, hand tight, twist, twist. Man, so much twisting. My hands are killing me. That's not even me, but you get the point. Hand tighten that sucker a little bit more. Twist, 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 twist. Hand tighten, hand tighten, hand tighten. Twist, twist, twist. You get the point. Surely enough, you will get those close enough and you can go ahead and trim this. We're not going to trim it too far, but far enough that we can put that bump stop over top. So we got that trimmed. We're going to tighten it down to 30 foot-pounds. Once we've done that, it's time to reinstall our bump stop and our U-bolts. And look at this, we got the brand new U-bolts on here. Of course we do, because your stock U-bolts, remember, aren't going to fit because we added a leaf. Also, you don't want to reuse your stock U-bolts because they can stretch with all the torque and the movement of the axle, so new ones are a good idea. We're going to slide those through the old mounting bracket, take a washer and a nut, and we're going to secure it to the bottom. Now remember, we want to do them in an equal fashion. We don't want to do one side first. We want to do all four in a crisscross applesauce pattern. The reason for that is torque dispersion. We want to make sure that we are torquing this equally. Now before we fully torque it, slide on a bump stop. This one's from Durabumps. It's an extended one. We're looking to protect that rear axle a little bit more now that we've lifted the vehicle. Video coming soon. At this point, we're going to trim the bottom of our U-bolts. Two reasons here. We want to fit a socket on to torque them down, and you don't want these hugely oversized U-bolts hanging out the back of your axle because that can drag on rocks, branches, anything underneath your truck. But don't trim them too short because that wouldn't be good either. So we're going to trim them a moderate amount so we can get a torque wrench on there and torque them down to around 80 foot-pounds. At this point, put that parking brake cable bracket back on. Top one as well if you took that off, and we can go ahead and do the lower shock bolt on our rear shock. This one might need a little bit of encouragement to get in there. Use a screwdriver sometimes to pry, and then we're just going to torque that sucker up to 74 foot-pounds. Look at this. We are done, folks. Make sure to put your wheel back on, of course. But here we go. Let's check it out.
All right, guys, check that out. This is with the Torch kit here. In the rear, we got the Add leaf, and this thing is sitting perfectly level. We got the Bilstein 6112s up front, the 5100s in the rear, and the Torch kit for the Add leaf. And my goodness, this is the perfect combo in my eyes. Really impressed with the Torch's quality, to be honest. It's been affordable on the side of things compared to like an Icon kit, and the quality was great. Easy installation, and man, they got the measurements just perfect. So would recommend this kit, guys. This is how she kind of sits. And so anyways, guys, we'll see you soon.